The first time I saw Youssef's face on Instagram, I thought he looked like a movie star. Dark eyes that seemed to hold secrets, a perfect smile that made my heart skip without permission. That effortless Mediterranean handsomeness that British men never quite manage no matter how much they try. He had posted a photo from Marrakech, standing in front of a riad with intricate blue and white tilework, the kind of place that looks like it belongs in a travel magazine. The caption was in both French and English. Life is beautiful when you appreciate the small things. I was 37 years old, recently divorced after 15 years of marriage, and scrolling through Instagram at 2 a.m. because sleep had become a stranger I no longer recognized. My marriage had ended a year earlier, with all the drama of a wet towel hitting linoleum. No affair, no shouting matches, no dramatic revelations, just the slow, painful realization that my ex-husband and I had become strangers who happened to share a mortgage and a Netflix account. The divorce had been amicable, civilized, and utterly depressing in its lack of passion. I was lonely in a way that felt physical, like something pressing on my chest. I was bored with my life in Manchester, the same commute, the same office, the same friends having the same conversations about school fees and loft conversions. I was desperate for something, anything, that felt alive, that felt real, that felt like it mattered. So when Youssef followed me and sent a message 10 minutes later, I responded without overthinking it. What harm could it do? It was just Instagram, just another stranger on the internet. Hello, beautiful. I saw your photos. You have kind eyes. I hope that is not too forward. I just felt I needed to tell you. It was forward. It was probably a line he used on dozens of women every day. But God help me. It felt good to be called beautiful by a handsome stranger, when the last compliment my ex-husband had given me was about my ability to parallel park. Thank you, I wrote back, adding a smiley emoji because I did not want to seem too eager or too dismissive. That is very kind of you to say, and that is how it started. The beginning of what would become the worst mistake of my life, though I did not know that yet. The beginning of a con so elaborate, so perfectly executed, that even now, 2 years later, and thousands of pounds poorer, I sometimes wonder if any of it was real. If he felt anything at all, or if I was just another Mark, another lonely woman with money in the bank and holes in her heart. My name is Charlotte Hayes. I am British, from Manchester, ordinary in every way that matters. And this is the story of how a Moroccan man destroyed my life with a smile. Youssef Amrani claimed to be 32, 5 years younger than me, though I would later discover this was just one of many lies. He said he lived in Casablanca, worked as a manager at a hotel near the beach, spoke 4 languages fluently because his work required it. His Instagram was full of beautiful photos that told a story of a cultured, educated life. Sunsets over the Atlantic Ocean with captions about gratitude. Traditional Moroccan architecture with commentary about preserving history. Plates of tagine and couscous artfully arranged. Artistic shots of Medina streets with philosophical musings about finding beauty in chaos. He was cultured, educated, charming in a way that felt effortless. Everything my ex-husband was not. Everything I thought I wanted. We talked every day, starting with simple exchanges about our work and quickly escalating to long voice messages where he would tell me about his day, his dreams, his philosophy on life. He was poetic in a way that made my chest ache with something I had not felt in years. He talked about fate, about how sometimes the universe brings 2 souls together even when they live on different continents. About how rare it was to find someone who truly understood you in a world full of superficial connections. You have suffered, he said early on, his voice warm through my phone speakers. I can see it in your eyes in your photos. You have been hurt by someone who did not appreciate what he had. But you are strong. You are a survivor. I admire that about you. I admire women who know their own worth. No one had ever talked to me like that. My ex-husband had been practical, analytical, emotionally distant in that particularly British way of treating feelings like an embarrassing medical condition. Youssef was the opposite. He was passionate, expressive, interested in everything about me. What I was thinking, what I was feeling, what I wanted from the rest of my life. I told him things I had never told anyone. About my childhood, about feeling like I never quite fit in anywhere. About my insecurities, about the fear that I had wasted 15 years on a marriage that was never right from the beginning. About how I was terrified of dying alone, of becoming one of those women people pity at dinner parties. "You will never be alone," he said with such conviction I almost believed him. "Not anymore. I am here. I will always be here for you." After a month of daily messages and increasingly personal conversations, we moved to video calls. Seeing his face in real time, hearing his voice without the delay of voice messages, made everything more intense, more real, more dangerous. He would call me Habibi, my love in Arabic, rolling the word around in his mouth like honey. He would tell me I was beautiful, that he thought about me constantly, that he had never felt this way about anyone before me. I fell hard and fast, like a teenager instead of a grown woman who should have known better. At 37, I should have recognized the red flags. But loneliness makes you stupid. Loneliness makes you believe things you would never believe if you were thinking clearly. 3 months in, Youssef said he wanted to meet me in person. He could not afford to come to England, he explained with genuine-sounding regret. His job paid decently by Moroccan standards, but not enough for international travel, not with the pound being so strong against the dirham. Could I come to Morocco, just for a week or two? He would show me his country, introduce me to his culture, see if what we had online could translate to real life. I hesitated for approximately 24 hours before booking a flight. It seemed fast. It seemed risky. It seemed like something a foolish woman would do. But I wanted to meet him. I wanted to see if the connection was real, if the butterflies in my stomach meant something, if this could be the second chance at happiness I desperately craved. I booked a flight to Casablanca for 2 weeks in May, using holiday time I had been saving for something undefined. I told my friends I was going on a solo adventure, exploring Morocco, treating myself to some me time after the divorce. I did not tell them about Youssef. I knew they would think I was crazy, would lecture me about internet safety and stranger danger like I was a naive teenager instead of a grown woman. Maybe I should have listened to the concerns they never got to voice. The flight was 4 hours that felt like 40. I spent the entire time oscillating between excitement and terror, my mind creating increasingly dramatic scenarios. What if he was not who he said he was? What if this was all an elaborate scam? What if I was walking into something dangerous? What if he was married? What if he was a criminal? What if? But when I walked through arrivals at Mohammed V Airport and saw him standing there with a bouquet of roses, wearing jeans and a white button-down shirt, all my fears evaporated like morning mist. He was real. He was exactly as handsome as his photos, maybe even more so in person. His smile was genuine, reaching his eyes in a way that camera lenses never quite capture. And when he smiled at me, when his whole face lit up with what looked like pure joy, I felt like I had finally come home after being lost for years. "Charlotte," he said, pulling me into a hug that was both gentle and passionate, lasting just long enough to make me feel wanted. "You came. You are really here. I cannot believe you are really here." "I am here," I said, breathing in his cologne and feeling dizzy with happiness. Those 2 weeks were magic, or what I thought was magic at the time. What I would later recognize as a carefully orchestrated performance designed to make me fall completely, irreversibly, in love. Youssef took time off work to show me Morocco, or so he claimed. Casablanca with its stunning Hassan II Mosque, Rabat with its ancient Kasbah, Marrakesh with its chaotic souks and snake charmers, the Atlas Mountains where the air was thin and clear, and everything felt possible. He was the perfect guide, attentive without being smothering, knowledgeable without being condescending. He held my hand in public, which he said was not really acceptable in Morocco, but he did not care what anyone thought. He wanted everyone to know I was his, that he had found something precious. He paid for everything, waving away my attempts to contribute with a firm shake of his head and a warm smile. "In my country, the man provides for his woman," he said. "It would be shameful for me to let you pay. Please, let me treat you like the queen you are." It should have been a red flag. It was a red flag. But I was too busy feeling cherished to recognize manipulation. We stayed in riads, beautiful traditional guest houses with interior courtyards and fountains that sounded like music. We ate incredible food at restaurants he knew, places tourists never found. We talked for hours about everything and nothing, and the physical connection was intense in a way I had not experienced in my marriage, maybe ever. After a year of celibacy following my divorce, being desired again, being wanted again, being touched with passion instead of obligation, was intoxicating beyond reason. He introduced me to his friends, or people he claimed were his friends. Young professionals who were warm and welcoming, who teased him about having a British girlfriend, who asked me about England and made me feel included. With them, I felt accepted, valued, interesting. I felt like I mattered in a way I had not felt in years. But he did not introduce me to his family. When I asked why on our 8th day together, he became evasive in a way that should have alarmed me. "My family is very traditional, very religious," he said, his expression carefully neutral. "They would not understand our relationship. To them, you are a foreign woman, not Muslim, older than me. They would judge you unfairly before getting to know you. I do not want to expose you to that until I have prepared them properly." "So when will I meet them?" I asked, trying to keep the hurt out of my voice. "When we are engaged, when I can present you as my future wife, not just my girlfriend. Then they will have to accept you. Then they will see you the way I see you." "Are you saying you want to marry me?" My heart was racing, excitement and fear mixing in my chest. He looked at me with those dark, intense eyes that seemed to see straight into my soul. "Yes, I want to marry you. I want to build a life with you. But I need time to prepare my family. Will you be patient with me? Will you trust me?" I said yes. Of course I said yes. What lonely, divorced woman would not say yes to a handsome man proposing marriage after 2 weeks of feeling more alive than she had felt in a decade? On my last night in Morocco, Youssef took me to a restaurant overlooking the ocean in Casablanca. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that looked artificial. He ordered champagne, which he explained was expensive and hard to find in Morocco because of religious restrictions, making the gesture feel even more special. "Charlotte, these 2 weeks have been the happiest of my life," he said, holding my hand across the table, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "I do not want this to end. I do not want to go back to just messages and video calls. Come back. Move here. Marry me. We can build a beautiful life together." I laughed nervously, trying to process what he was saying. "Youssef, I have a job, a flat, a life in Manchester. I cannot just abandon everything." "What kind of life?" he asked, his voice gentle but pointed. "You told me yourself you are lonely there. You told me you hate your job in human resources, that you feel empty, that every day feels the same. Here, with me, you would have purpose. You would have love. You would have adventure. Is that not worth more than a job you hate and a flat you live in alone?" He was right about everything, which was precisely why his words were so effective. My life in Manchester was empty, hollow, meaningless. I worked in human resources at a manufacturing company, a job I found soul-crushing. I lived in a small flat that still felt like my ex-husband's space, even though he had moved out a year ago. I had friends, but they were all married with children, living lives I could not relate to anymore, having conversations about schools and mortgages that made me feel even more isolated. What would I do in Morocco? I asked, trying to find practical objections to what my heart wanted. I do not speak Arabic or French. I do not have a work visa. I do not know anything about living here. You could teach English. Foreigners do it all the time here. The demand is high. The pay is decent. Or you could just be my wife. I make enough money for both of us. You would not have to work if you did not want to. You could relax, explore, learn the language, be happy. The idea was seductive, dangerously seductive. To be taken care of, to not have to worry about bills and careers and the grinding monotony of daily life, to just exist in this bubble of love and passion and exotic adventure, to be wanted, cherished, protected. Let me think about it, I said, though even then I knew I was going to say yes. But in my heart, watching the sunset over the Atlantic with this beautiful man holding my hand, I had already decided. I was going to throw away my safe, boring life for a chance at something that felt real. I flew back to Manchester and immediately started planning my return. I gave notice at my job, citing personal reasons, and ignoring the concerned looks from my manager. I gave up my flat, selling or donating most of my possessions, because shipping things to Morocco seemed too complicated. I told my mother I had met someone, that I was moving to Morocco, that I was finally happy. Her reaction was everything I expected and dreaded. Charlotte, you barely know this man. What if he is not who he says he is? What if something happens to you there? How will we help you if you are in trouble? Nothing is going to happen, Mom. I am 37 years old. I can take care of myself. I know what I am doing. But I did not know anything. I did not know who Youssef really was. I did not know what I was walking into. I did not know that I was about to make the worst decision of my life. I moved to Casablanca in September, 6 months after that first Instagram message. Youssef had found us an apartment in Marif, a decent middle-class neighborhood. It was on the 3rd floor of a modern building, 2 bedrooms, relatively clean. It was smaller than I expected, more basic than the riads we had stayed in during my visit, but he said it was what he could afford on his hotel manager's salary. The first month was wonderful, or what I convinced myself was wonderful. We played house, cooking together, exploring the city, making love like teenagers discovering it for the first time. Youssef was attentive, affectionate, everything I had dreamed of. He called me his queen, his angel, his everything. He told me daily how lucky he was, how beautiful I was, how much he loved me. But small things started to feel off, little cracks appearing in the perfect facade. Money was tight, tighter than Youssef had implied it would be. He was always short on cash, always borrowing from me until payday. The rent was expensive, he explained. The cost of living in Casablanca was high, especially in a decent neighborhood. His salary from the hotel barely covered everything. He had not anticipated how expensive it would be supporting 2 people. I offered to contribute, eager to feel useful and to ease his burden. I had savings from selling my flat in Manchester, about £20,000. It was supposed to be my safety net, my emergency fund, my insurance policy. But Youssef said we needed it for living expenses while I looked for teaching work, while I got settled, while I learned the language. Just for a few months, he said, his expression earnest and worried. Until you find a teaching job and start bringing in income, then we will be fine. I promise we will be fine. I transferred £5,000 to his Moroccan bank account in the first month, to help with rent and bills, he said, to take the pressure off while I adjusted to my new life. The teaching jobs I applied for were scarce and paid poorly when I could find them at all. £30 to £40 a day if I was lucky, teaching English to businessmen or wealthy housewives. The market was saturated with English teachers, many of them younger and more qualified than me, many of them willing to work for even less. I applied everywhere, sent out dozens of CVs, but rejections piled up like evidence of my poor planning. Do not worry about it, Youssef said whenever I expressed frustration. We will figure it out. Money is not everything. We have love. We have each other. That is what matters. But we did not just have love. We had bills and rent and living expenses that kept requiring more money than Youssef had claimed we would need. He kept needing money for various emergencies that arose with alarming frequency. His mother was sick and needed medicine that was not covered by the public health system. His father's taxi had broken down and needed expensive repairs, or he could not work. His sister's husband had lost his job, and they needed help feeding their 3 children. His cousin needed money for school fees. His uncle needed money for a minor medical procedure. Every story was plausible, compelling, designed to pull at my heartstrings. Every request came with genuine seeming distress, with apologies, with promises to pay me back as soon as possible. And I wanted to help. I wanted to be a good partner, to support him the way he was supposedly supporting me, to prove I was not just some selfish foreigner using him for an exotic experience. Over 6 months, I transferred £15,000 to him, almost all of my savings, the money I had carefully accumulated over years of work, the nest egg I had thought would last years. Gone. I also started noticing he was working less than he had claimed. He stopped going to the hotel every day, sometimes not for several days in a row. When I asked why, he said he had been let go 3 months after I arrived. Budget cuts, he explained with what looked like genuine shame. The hotel was struggling with the economic situation. They had to make difficult decisions. But he would find something new soon, he promised. The job market was just difficult right now. Weeks turned into months. Youssef stopped looking for work in any visible way. He spent his days at cafes with friends, smoking shisha, drinking mint tea, playing cards. I was the one frantically applying for jobs, trying to make money, watching my savings disappear with terrifying speed. We started fighting about it, small arguments that escalated into bigger ones. Why are you not looking for work? Why am I the only one trying? How did you support yourself before I arrived if you were barely making enough at the hotel? You do not understand how hard it is here, he would say, his voice rising with what seemed like genuine frustration. The economy is terrible. There are no jobs unless you have connections. I am trying, Charlotte. I am trying my best. Why are you putting so much pressure on me? But he was not trying. He was living off me, using me, and I was too deep in to admit it to myself. And still, I stayed. Because I loved him. Because I had given up everything to be with him. Because going back to England meant admitting I had made a catastrophic mistake. Meant facing the "I told you so" from everyone who had warned me. Because I had burned my bridges and had nowhere else to go. So I stayed. And the situation got worse. The truth revealed itself slowly at first, then all at once, like a building collapsing in stages. It started with a message on Instagram from a woman named Sophie. She was British, in her early 40s, living in London, her profile showing a professional-looking woman with kind eyes and an incautious smile. I saw that you follow Youssef Amrani. I need to warn you about him. He is a scammer. He did the same thing to me 2 years ago. Please, can we talk? I know you probably think I am crazy or jealous, but I promise you I am not. I am trying to save you from what happened to me. My first instinct was to delete the message without responding. It was clearly from a jealous ex-girlfriend, someone bitter and trying to cause problems, someone who could not accept that Youssef had moved on and found happiness with someone else. But something made me pause, made me look at her profile more carefully, made me respond against my better judgment. What do you mean, scammer? I typed, my hands shaking slightly. She sent me her phone number immediately, asked me to call her as soon as possible. When I did, sitting in the bathroom of the apartment I shared with Youssef because it was the only place I could get real privacy, she told me a story that was eerily, horrifyingly similar to mine. She had met Youssef on Instagram 3 years earlier. He had been charming, romantic, perfect in every way. He had bombed her with attention and affection. She had visited Morocco twice, fallen completely in love, felt like she had found her soulmate. He had talked about marriage, about building a life together, about how she was the woman he had been waiting for his entire life. Then the requests for money started. His mother was sick. His father needed help. His family was struggling. Every story designed to extract more cash, more resources, more of her financial security. She had given him £20,000 over 8 months, watching her retirement savings evaporate while believing she was helping the man she loved. Then she discovered he was married, not to a British woman or a European woman, but to a Moroccan woman, his actual, legal, Moroccan wife that he had been married to for 7 years. They had 2 young children together. "This cannot be true," I said, my voice shaking, my world tilting sideways. "You must be mistaken. You must have him confused with someone else." "It is true," Sophie said, her voice gentle but firm. "And Charlotte, I am not the only one. There are at least 5 of us that I know of, probably more. Women from the UK, from America, from France, from Australia. He targets middle-aged, divorced, or widowed women on social media, women who are financially comfortable and emotionally vulnerable. He makes them fall in love, gets them to move to Morocco, or at least visit multiple times, takes their money with endless sob stories, then disappears or admits the truth when they are too invested to leave easily. After the call, I sat on the bathroom floor for 20 minutes, trying to process what I had heard, trying to decide if I believed her, trying to reconcile the man I loved with the monster she was describing. Then I did what I should have done months ago. I went through Youssef's phone. He had been careless lately, leaving it unlocked when he went to shower or sleep. Confident I would never violate his privacy. Confident I trusted him completely. What I found destroyed any remaining illusions I had been clinging to. Messages to other women on Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp. British women, American women, French women, German women. All with the same tone, the same poetry, the same promises. "You are my queen. You are my angel. I have never felt this way before. I want to marry you and build a life with you." Copy and paste romance, mass-produced declarations of love, sent to dozens of women simultaneously. Photos I had never seen, tagged in old posts he had archived or hidden from me. Him with other women at restaurants, at beaches, at the same riads he had taken me to, even wearing some of the same clothes. Different women, identical script, same performance repeated over and over. And worst of all, messages with someone named Fatima. In Arabic, which I translated using my phone, sitting on the bed we shared while he was out at yet another cafe with his friends. She was his wife. His actual, legal Moroccan wife. They had been married for 10 years. They had 3 children, not 2 like Sophie had said. Ages 8, 6, and 4. She knew about me. She knew about the others. The messages showed her complaining about money, about how he spent too much time with his British girlfriends and American girlfriends and French girlfriends instead of home with his family. He reassured her with cold, transactional language. "It is just business, Habibi. They give me money. I send it to you and the children. This is how I provide for our family. Do not worry about them. They mean nothing. You are my wife. They are just work. I was not his girlfriend. I was not his future wife. I was not special or chosen or loved. I was his job, his income source. A mark in a long line of marks. Another lonely woman with money to extract and a heart to break." When Youssef came home that evening, smelling like cigarette smoke and mint tea, I was sitting at our small kitchen table with his phone, printouts of messages, and a facial expression that must have told him immediately that something had changed. "Who is Fatima?" I asked, my voice deadly calm in a way that surprised me. His face went completely white, all the blood draining in an instant. "Charlotte, I can explain. It is not what you think. Explain what? That you are married? That you have 3 children? That I am one of many women you are running this scam on? That everything you have told me for the past year has been a lie? It is not like that, he started. But I cut him off. Then what is it like, Youssef? Or is that even your real name? He tried to salvage it, sitting down across from me, reaching for my hands, which I pulled away. He cried, which was probably calculated, tears running down his face like he was auditioning for a movie. He said his marriage was arranged by his family when he was young, that it was loveless, that he had never wanted it. He said Fatima meant nothing to him emotionally, that she was just the mother of his children, just a legal arrangement he was stuck in. He said the other women were mistakes, that I was the only one he truly loved, that I was different from all the others. I listened to him lie for 30 minutes, watched him perform contrition and heartbreak, saw him use every manipulation technique in his arsenal. Then I said the only thing that mattered. I want my money back. All 15,000 pounds. His expression changed instantly, the mask dropping, the real Youssef emerging from behind the character he had been playing. His face hardened, his eyes going cold in a way I had never seen. "What money?" he asked, his voice flat, all pretense of emotion gone. "The 15,000 pounds I have given you over the past 6 months. For your sick mother, your broken taxi, your unemployed brother-in-law, your cousin's school fees. I want it back." He stood up, suddenly aggressive in a way that made me lean back instinctively. "That money is gone. I used it for what I told you I needed it for. For my family, for bills, for living expenses. You gave it willingly. No one forced you. You lied to me. You manipulated me. You made me think we had a future together while you were married with 3 children." He laughed then, a harsh sound without humor. "You gave me that money willingly because you wanted to keep me happy, because you were desperate for me to stay with you. That is not my fault. That is not illegal. You are just another stupid foreign woman who thought she could buy love. Give me my money back or I am going to the police." He laughed again, this time with genuine amusement. "Go ahead. Go to the police. You will tell them what? That you willingly sent money to your boyfriend and now you want it back because you found out he is married? They will laugh at you. This is Morocco, Charlotte, not England. Here, women who come looking for romance and get scammed are seen as foolish, as deserving what happens to them. You have no proof of fraud. You have no case. You gave me money of your own free will. The police will do nothing." And he was right. I knew he was right. I had willingly transferred money. I had no written agreement, no contract, no proof that he had promised to pay it back. I had nothing except my own stupidity and broken heart. "I am leaving," I said, standing up on legs that felt unsteady. "I am going back to England." "Fine," he said with a shrug that was more devastating than anger would have been. "Leave. But you are not taking anything I paid for. That laptop, that phone, those clothes, that suitcase, all mine. You leave with what you came with and nothing more." I had nothing. He had systematically taken everything from me over 6 months, including my dignity and my ability to trust my own judgment. I packed a single small suitcase with my most essential belongings, my passport, which thankfully he had not managed to take, and the clothes on my back. Everything else I left behind. My laptop, my good phone, most of my clothes, my books, my jewelry. He was right. He had paid for most of it with my money, but I could not prove it. I had no receipts, no records, no evidence. I called Sophie from a hotel near the airport, using the last of my emergency credit card limit to pay for a room. She helped me find resources, connected me with other women who had been scammed by Moroccan men using similar tactics. There were dozens of us, maybe hundreds. A whole invisible network of heartbroken, financially devastated women who had fallen for beautiful lies, told by men who had turned scamming foreign women into an organized industry. Some women had lost more than I had. £50,000, £100,000, life savings, retirement funds, money borrowed from family they would never be able to pay back. Some women were trapped in Morocco, married to their scammers with children, unable to leave because of custody laws that favored Moroccan fathers. I was lucky, Sophie told me. I got out relatively quickly with relatively little damage. Some women stay for years, keep sending money for years, destroy their entire lives before they accept the truth. I flew back to England 3 days later, using an emergency loan from my mother that came with a side of "I told you," so that I absolutely deserved. I had less than £1,000 to my name in actual accessible funds. No job, no flat, no possessions beyond what fit in a small suitcase. I moved back in with my mother at 38 years old, sleeping in my childhood bedroom, humiliated beyond words. The months after I returned were the darkest of my life, darker even than my divorce. I was broke, homeless, unemployed, and emotionally shattered. My mother was kind, but I could see the judgment in her eyes, the "I warned you" sitting unspoken between us at every meal. I tried to report Youssef to Action Fraud, the UK's National Reporting Centre for Fraud and Cybercrime. They took my report, assigned it a number, and told me honestly that there was little they could do. He was in Morocco. I had sent money willingly through legitimate banking channels. There was no clear evidence of fraud in a legal sense, just a failed relationship where I had been financially supportive. They could not help me recover my money. Romance fraud is very difficult to prosecute, the officer told me with genuine sympathy in his voice, especially when it crosses international borders. These men are very good at staying just on the right side of the law technically. I am sorry, but we likely cannot help you get your money back. I joined online support groups for women who had been scammed by Moroccan men specifically, because apparently this was common enough to have dedicated support networks. The stories were heartbreakingly similar, like reading my own experience in different handwriting. Charming men on social media, whirlwind online romances, requests for money disguised as family emergencies, promises of marriage and future together, then either ghosting or the revelation of a Moroccan wife and children. We were all middle-aged women, recently divorced or widowed, financially comfortable enough to be targets. We were all educated, intelligent women who should have known better, but had been targeted during moments of vulnerability. But loneliness is a weakness that professional scammers exploit with surgical precision. I learned that Youssef was well known in these groups, his face and various fake names shared in warning posts. Multiple women had reported him going back years. He changed his Instagram and Facebook handles regularly, but his face remained the same in photos. He was still operating, still finding new victims, still destroying lives with his smile. I considered going public with my story, posting warnings on social media, contacting journalists, doing whatever I could to prevent other women from making my mistakes. But shame held me back like a physical force. I did not want people to know how stupid I had been, how easily I had been manipulated, how completely I had ignored every red flag. My friends were sympathetic, but I could hear the unspoken questions. How could you send that much money to someone you barely knew? Why did you not do a background check? Did you not see the warning signs? The answer was yes, I saw them. I just chose to ignore them because I wanted so desperately for the fantasy to be real. It took me 6 months to find a job, and not in my old field of human resources. No one wanted to hire a woman who had left her last job suddenly for personal reasons and had a 6-month employment gap that screamed poor judgment. I ended up taking a position in a call center, minimum wage, mind-numbing work, answering complaint calls from angry customers. I saved every penny I could, trying to rebuild my life from absolute zero. I also started therapy with a therapist who specialized in financial exploitation and romance fraud. She helped me understand what had happened, helped me see that I had been deliberately targeted, that this was not just a failed relationship, but a calculated exploitation of my vulnerability during a weak moment. You were not stupid. she told me again and again until I almost started to believe it. You were human. Loneliness makes people vulnerable in ways they would never be otherwise. Scammers like Youssef are extremely skilled at identifying and exploiting that vulnerability. This is not your fault. You are a victim of a crime, even if the legal system does not recognize it as such. But it felt like my fault. It felt like I should have known better, should have been smarter, should have protected myself. A year after I left Morocco, I received a message on Instagram from a woman named Jessica. She was American, 35 years old, and she was in a relationship with Youssef. She had seen my warnings in the support groups and wanted to know if they were true, if Youssef was really a scammer, if she should be worried. I sent her everything I had, screenshots of messages showing he was married, photos of him with other women including me, contact information for his wife Fatima, who I had managed to reach through a Moroccan woman in one of the support groups, details of his scams, the exact stories he tells, the pattern of financial requests. I begged her not to send him money, not to move to Morocco, not to make the same mistakes I had made. She thanked me politely, said she would think about it carefully, said she appreciated the warning. Then she blocked me on everything. 2 months after that, she joined the support group herself. She had sent Youssef $12,000 over 4 months. She had quit her job in Seattle and moved to Casablanca with all her savings. She had discovered he was still married to Fatima, still scamming multiple other women simultaneously. She was now broke, stranded in Morocco, trying to figure out how to get home, trying to understand how she had been so stupid when someone had tried to warn her. I had tried to save her. She had not listened, just like I would not have listened if someone had warned me. That is how these scams work, how they succeed again and again. The men are so skilled at manipulation, so convincing in their performances, that even when confronted with evidence, victims want to believe the lies more than the truth. Because the truth is too painful. The truth means you have been used, exploited, made into a fool. I reached out to Jessica privately, shared my experience, offered support without judgment. We became friends in that strange way trauma survivors do, bonded by our shared stupidity and pain. She eventually made it back to Seattle with help from her family, just as broken as I had been. The scam has patterns, she told me during one of our long phone conversations. They all use the same playbook. Love bombing in the beginning, then family emergencies, then keeping you isolated from people who might see the truth, then making you feel like you are the problem if you question anything. It is so obvious in retrospect, but impossible to see when you are in it. 2 years after leaving Morocco, I am still rebuilding my life piece by piece. I have a better job now, working in administration at a local council office. Nothing glamorous, nothing high-paying, but stable and honest. I have my own small flat again, nothing fancy but mine. I have started rebuilding my savings, though I will never recover the 15,000 pounds I lost. That money is gone forever, a very expensive lesson in trusting the wrong person. I am also single, and likely to remain that way. I have not dated since Youssef, have not even entertained the idea of trying. The thought of trusting someone again, of being vulnerable again, of potentially being hurt again, terrifies me more than being alone for the rest of my life. I have built walls so high around my heart that I am not sure anyone will ever be able to scale them again. But I have found some purpose in my pain. I run a blog now about romance scams, specifically targeting the Moroccan romance scam industry that destroys lives daily. I share stories from victims who are brave enough to come forward, provide red flags to watch for, offer resources for women who find themselves in similar situations. The red flags I ignored, but you should never ignore. He was too perfect, too attentive, too romantic, too good to be true. Real relationships develop slowly with natural ups and downs. Scammers love bomb you, overwhelming you with affection designed to bypass your rational defenses and get you emotionally invested before you can think clearly. He moved extremely fast, talking about marriage and forever within weeks of meeting online. Scammers create urgency to prevent you from thinking clearly, to push you into decisions before you can research or ask questions or listen to people who care about you. He always needed money for plausible-sounding emergencies. There was always a sick family member, always a broken vehicle, always a crisis that only your money could solve. Scammers create financial dependency while making you feel like a generous, caring partner rather than a victim being systematically drained. He isolated me from my support system, encouraged me to move to Morocco away from friends and family who might have questioned the relationship. Scammers need you isolated, need you dependent on them for information and perspective, need you unable to easily escape when you start seeing the truth. He had minimal verifiable online presence beyond Instagram, no LinkedIn with work history and colleagues, no Facebook with old photos showing his life over years, no digital footprint that could be verified. Scammers create false identities that are intentionally difficult to investigate or confirm. He refused to introduce me to his family until we were engaged or married. Scammers hide their real lives as long as possible, keeping you separate from anyone who might accidentally reveal the truth about their marriage, their children, their other victims. Every single red flag was visible from the beginning. I just chose not to see them because I wanted the fantasy more than I wanted the truth. I have also learned that Morocco has become a hub for romance fraud, an organized industry where young men in cities like Casablanca, Marrakech, and Tangier have turned scamming foreign women into their primary income source. They share tips and techniques in online forums and private chat groups. They teach each other how to manipulate women, how to extract maximum money, how to avoid getting caught by authorities who largely do not care. Some scammers operate in small networks, sharing one Instagram account with multiple operators pretending to be the same person to manage more victims simultaneously. Some have multiple phones, running 5 or 6 scams at once with different identities. Some even have managers who take a percentage of profits, treating romance fraud like any other business with organizational structure and quotas. It is systematic, it is organized, it is devastating to hundreds or thousands of women every year. The Moroccan government does little to stop it, because romance fraud is not a priority for law enforcement. Western women who come looking for love and end up scammed are often seen as naive foreigners who should have known better, almost as if they deserved what happened. There is a cultural attitude that foreign women with money are fair game, that separating them from their cash is clever rather than criminal. And the British government offers minimal help beyond general warnings. The embassy can provide information and emotional support, but cannot intervene in what they consider private financial transactions between adults. If you send money willingly to someone you met online, even if you were manipulated into doing so, there is little legal recourse. You are on your own. We victims are completely on our own in systems that do not recognize what happened to us as real crime. I have tried to contact Youssef exactly once since leaving Morocco, not because I wanted closure, or hoped for an apology, or expected him to suddenly develop a conscience, but because I wanted him to know I was not staying silent, that I was warning other women, that his scam would not work forever on everyone. He blocked me immediately without responding, but I know he saw the message, and I know he is still out there, still operating, still finding new victims. Sophie recently told me through our support group that he is engaged to a French woman now, a widow in her 50s, who recently sold her house in Lyon and is planning to move to Morocco. She has money. She is lonely. She is perfect for him. I tried to warn her too, reaching out through every platform I could find. She has not responded. She probably thinks I am a crazy jealous ex, just like I would have thought if someone had warned me. She will learn the truth eventually, probably after she has lost everything just like I did. That is the hardest part of this entire experience, knowing Youssef is still operating, still destroying lives with his smile and his lies, and being powerless to stop him. Knowing that for every woman I manage to warn and save, 10 more ignore the warnings because they want to believe in the fantasy, because they are lonely, because they are vulnerable, because they think they are different, special, the exception to the rule. I was not special. I was just another mark. another lonely woman with money and holes in her heart that a professional predator knew exactly how to exploit. Romance fraud is not just about money, though the financial devastation is real and severe. It is about predators who see lonely women as targets, as resources to be extracted and discarded without guilt or consequences. It is about men who have turned emotional manipulation into a profitable career, who destroy lives without losing sleep, who move from victim to victim like it is just another day at the office. If you are reading this, and you are in an online relationship with someone from Morocco, or Turkey, or Egypt, or anywhere with significant economic disparity, please listen to my story. Please ask yourself the hard questions I did not ask. Is this person too good to be true? Are they asking for money directly or indirectly? Are they isolating you from people who care about you? Are they pushing you to move fast, to commit before you are ready, to trust them before they have earned it? If the answer to any of those questions is yes, please run. Please do not make my mistakes. Please do not ignore the red flags because you are lonely, or because you want to believe in romance, or because you think you are special enough to be the exception. You are not special to them. You are a paycheck. You are a mark. You are a victim waiting to happen unless you protect yourself. I learned that romance fraud destroys more than bank accounts, though £15,000 gone forever certainly hurts. If you have been targeted by a romance scammer, share your story in the comments. Hit that like button to help others see this warning, and subscribe for more real stories about intercultural relationships. What culture should we explore next?